Well, it's great to welcome Tim Aschoff back to the program again with Crete. Hey, Tim, top of the morning.
Good morning. Great to be back.
We'll talk a little bit about your activities and some of the health initiatives, too. And then women in trucking. In fact, we're going to be going back to Dallas in September to broadcast from Women in Trucking's first Accelerate conference. So we're really looking forward to that. And I know you guys work very closely with Women in Trucking as well.
Yes, indeed. And, one of the couple of the themes of the Great American Truck Show this year were just those two things, women in the trucking and certainly health topics are always on the mind of drivers in the industry. So, those are two important things to us as a company as well. And, particularly, women in trucking, we have a lot of great female drivers out there. They're an important part of our segment as an industry and a growing part. And it's important to recognize that and certainly welcome them into our fold.
What are some of the things that the women tell you, or what is kind of shared across the board when it comes to the experience of women in trucking during the training process now?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is to throw away the stereotypes. I mean, they're out there to do a job. They're very capable, and expect to be treated that way. And we find that to be the case. I mean, we have a lot of very good and capable women on our team, and they come in and they're eager, they're ready to go. They often, quite frankly, have great attention to detail, sometimes better than the rest of us. And, we certainly see that in their training and how focused they are and how well they do. And then certainly when they're out on the road themselves, very good at certainly understanding safety and, what that means to them and those on the road. And then also just the whole, being your own manager out there on the road and all the things you have to do as a driver requires a lot of planning and attention to detail, and they do well at that.
Tim Aschoff with us with Crete and Schaefer. Tim, there was a time when a dispatcher could say, "All right, Tim, got your load, and you get it over to Schenectady. When can you get it there? I can get there by Wednesday. Okay, see you. Call me when you get there." That's really basic. But in other words, he got the job done today now. His ability to kind of run his own clock is gone. We have the inflexible 14-hour rule. Flexibility is so important to drivers. We just can't overstate that. But that being said, we have what we have, and it is what it is. How much more important is solid time management technique now? And is that the next kind of big training area in terms of making folks take advantage of what is out there for them to take advantage of? Sometimes just doing one thing one way and something else a different way, you can change results on something. And maybe there is a way to work with this clock that folks need to be taught. I'm not a good time manager myself,
Yeah, I understand that. It seems like the day goes on and your time slips away and you haven't accomplished what you want to. But, with that inflexibility you mentioned, time management is so critical. And understanding, we still have to have people that, drivers still really need to understand the hours of service and what impacts their day, what starts their clock, when can their clock stop, which, as now is for very, very limited purposes. So when that clock starts at the beginning of the day, when you go on duty, that first on-duty activity is very important. So that's important to plan. And then the activities you're going to have throughout the day, when you're going to be able to fuel, when you're going to be at a shipper and receiver, and the timing of those things is important. But what I think is even more important today than the driver, obviously understanding that, is that the teamwork between the driver and their company. It's one thing for the driver to be able to manage their day, but it's another for the company to be working with them and ensuring that they can give them a load that will maximize their available hours on any given day, obviously in a safe manner. Because if we're not teamed up in doing that, driver may have managed their day very well, but then what we give them for the next load doesn't match what they have for available hours, not only today, but what's left on on their 70s. So it's that change in hours of service has really had to make us not only ensure that we're training our drivers to understand that impact and how to obviously comply with the rules and at the same time do their job effectively, but how do we internally manage that load, that driver's time with them to make them successful.
One of the things that we certainly want to get into the conversation here is something that you guys are being very proactive about. And beyond, overall health and wellness, which you're very proactive about, kind of zeroed in on some things such as diabetes, heart disease, stroke, obesity, and sleep apnea. And OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, is a big ticket item here in this industry, is it not?
It seems to become more so every day, and as we've talked a little bit in the past with the medical examiner registry and more focus on the driver's medical examination, sleep apnea has become more of a focus, and certainly we've known that for a number of years. We started our sleep apnea program back in 2010. We partnered with a third-party provider that does sleep testing for us. We know this can be a scary thing for drivers. No one likes to be tested, first of all, for health things in general, and second, to know that you certainly have the possibility of becoming aware of an illness you may have. But the good thing about this is a very treatable illness. We've conducted thousands of these tests now on drivers. We pay for the tests as a company. One of the big things with the benefit of our program is typically going out for a sleep apnea test can take drivers 2, 3, 4 weeks. With the company we've partnered with, we're able to do the tests at 3 of our terminals across the country and have that test fully completed in a day or two, depending on the results. And we've seen really positive results once we've had drivers go through that. We have a driver just talking with the other day, Peter Ward. He'd been with us a few years and had gone for that DOT physical and found out that he needed to have the sleep study. And of course, he was nervous like everyone else, and had sort of mixed emotions, and knew he had been a snorer, knew he'd been a little bit overweight, and was found positive, and of course nervous about being treated. But once treated, certain conveyed to us how he didn't realize the lack of quality sleep he was getting without treatment. And he was talking to us that his wife's really enjoyed him now more because his short-term memory's coming back, that he's remembering things his wife is telling him. So there are some side effects, side benefits to the studies as well. So.
Okay, sign me up. But you guys have put some big bucks in this thing. I mean, I know you don't want to say this, but I'll go ahead and say it. You guys have spent well over $1 million on this program.
Yeah, we kind of laugh, but this is a very serious issue. Getting proper sleep is so critical to each of our own health, let alone, the safety out there of our drivers and those on the road. So, as with any medical testing and treatment, it's not cheap. And we know in our industry and certainly with the hardworking driving force we have out there, any additional cost can be burdensome. And, we also found that we could, if we partner up directly with a provider and have them on site, we can provide testing more effectively and quite honestly less expensively if we have to have all of our drivers go out and find treatment at their own at different clinics. And so, as I mentioned before, we took the step to set that up, but we also take the next step in paying for the exam for the drivers, and that is a big cost annually. And as you mentioned, yes, we do spend over $1 million a year on testing our drivers for sleep apnea, and then certainly helping them with starting their treatment and being successful in their treatment, because that's everyone's goal is to certainly have successfully treated drivers out there to help improve their quality of life and their safety.
Quality of life has become something that I think that I saw the birth of back possibly in the late 1980s when that seed was planted. And now it's all about quality of life, as it well should be. But the basic rules for improving life on the road, living healthier, Tim, they pretty much, when it comes to dieting, exercise, it, the very most simple basics are basically all you really need.
That's true, and sometimes it's difficult for those of us who don't drive out on the road to understand what it takes sometimes to live those simple basics. As you mentioned before, there's not a lot of flexibility in a driver's schedule on where they may be able to start their day, stop for breaks, stop at night. So for them to have the opportunity to get out and do some of those basics, get out and walk, find good fresh fruit, good foods to be able to eat out there on the road, we know can be challenging. So again, that's a way that we as a company have to work with them to provide those opportunities and to provide amenities they need in their trucks to be able to help themselves eat healthy, whether it's through having inverters in their trucks and offering refrigerators, those types of things. As we do in order to allow a driver to do that, are a lot of things we take for granted. And it is good to see that the industry as a whole is focusing more on that because it's certainly something that we need to ensure we provide the right opportunities for drivers out there to be healthy.